Hello, this is Catherine from Accelerated Reader. Today, I will be reading The Basement Monster, written by Mark Gunning. Before I begin reading, I would like to give a big thanks to author Mark Gunning for sending me this book to read on my channel. In the description below, I have included links so that you may find more books written by Mark Gunning. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The Basement Monster. I woke up to the sound of a text message and ignored it. It was early morning and I still wanted to enjoy a few more minutes of sleep. Ding! A moment of silence. Ding! Another one. This continued for a few more minutes. Finally, I reached for my phone on my nightstand and located it after a few attempts. William, today, 7:52 a.m. Get here ASAP. Grunt going for a walk. Be there soon. William wanted me to come to his house right away. His granny had just left the house to go for a walk, and there was a small window of opportunity to pull off his next so-called brilliant idea. I got dressed quickly, grabbed a quick bite to eat, and headed over to William's. As I approached his house, I could hear a strange noise coming from his garage. By now, I had slowed down to a snail's pace and was confused by the odd sound. It sounded sort of like a cross between an angry bear and a crazed snake. Maybe it was just William snoring again, but I had to find out. The sound suddenly stopped and changed to another strange sound. This time, it sort of reminded me of the monster from one of those classic horror movies William and I had watched the summer before. The noise suddenly stopped again and was followed by a very familiar sound. William laughing hysterically. I turned the corner and headed slowly into the garage to see William sitting on a chair by the workbench. His face was red, tears running down his cheeks. He was laughing to himself. Glancing towards the workbench, I saw a new set of plans he had drawn up. I wasn't sure what was going on, so I walked over and took a closer look. The plans showed William singing or talking. I wasn't quite sure at that moment. Into a microphone as part of Plan A. And the two of us, represented by some awesome stick figures I might add, blocking a door in Plan B. I stared at William for a moment with a confused look on my face, and then he filled me in on the plans. The plans were quite simple. William wanted to record monster noises in his tablet so he could send the sounds by Wi-Fi to the downstairs speakers in the playroom. This would make it appear that the noises were coming from the basement. These mysterious sounds would scare his little brother Adam. Adam had gotten William into trouble the day before when he inadvertently told his granny that William had given Harry all the leftover chili in an attempt to seek revenge due to a previous grounding. As part of his punishment, William had to clean up after Harry as he recuperated from all the spicy chili. As William explained, it was a little bit of payback for Adam telling on him. William continued to explain his new plan with all the details. The gist of it was that the two of us would pretend not to hear the first sounds that would be coming from the basement. part of all our hard work. After a while, I was to ask William if he heard something coming from the basement. William would then walk slowly towards the basement door and pause as a loud crash would occur downstairs, courtesy of the recording. I was then to creep over and stand behind William, acting scared. The basement door would then be secretly opened just enough by William so he could look down through the crack, and a rather loud roar would be heard, if timed just right. After the monster noise from the basement, it would be followed by the two of us screaming as loud as we could. Hopefully, his little brother would be standing directly behind us for protection. His little brother Adam would be terrified. At this point in time, I suggested to William that it wasn't such a good idea and that he might get grounded again. He proceeded to ignore me and went on to his plans. We needed to finish the sound effects before Granny Grunt got back from her walk with his little brother, or she would likely piece together what we were doing. The two of us decided to start the recording with some low-level noises and some rattling sounds. At this point, William thought it would be perfect to continue recording silence for a bit before making some more noises. For the next half hour, William and I hit garbage cans, rattled some tools, and stomped around his garage as we continued to record. I must have gotten carried away because I grabbed one of his hockey sticks and whacked the side of his dad's garbage can a few times, leaving a massive dent, I might add. However, something I would have to pay for later. By now, we were nearing final completion of the recording and figured we needed to add some additional sounds like someone or something was walking up the basement stairs. William put on his dad's work boots, yelled at me to bring the tablet, and ran inside the house to finish the recording. William hurried to the bottom of the stairs as I began to record him stomping up the basement stairs. Once the two of us were happy with what we had accomplished, we hit the pause button and grabbed a quick drink in the kitchen. By now, we had pretty much everything recorded, but the final piece, the monster. William told me how he had been perfecting it whenever his granny took Adam for a walk. We ran back to the garage, closed the overhead door, and set the tablet on the floor. I left the honors for William since this was his grand idea. I pulled up a stool and sat and watched the master at work. William paced around the garage, took in a few deep breaths, and scrunched up his face. Then he let out the most terrifying sound I had ever heard in my life. What came out of his mouth for the next 68 seconds was what soon began to be known as the bear snake. It completely caught me off guard as I fell backwards off the stool. William was so taken by the moment that he didn't even notice what had happened to me. I jumped up off the floor and sat back down. I found it truly amazing watching William as he continued the sound without ever pausing to take a breath. To this day, I get chills down my spine when I think about the sound he made. He said it took a lot of skill. I'd say a lot of hot air. By now, we were worried his granny and little brother would be returning soon. So we wrapped things up and went back inside to test the connection. everything had to be perfect. The tablet connected to the stereo system flawlessly. I adjusted the volume while William stood at the basement door listening closely. His dad had added a set of high-end speakers to the downstairs playroom, which made it very convenient and realistic for us. After about 20 minutes of practicing, we had our timing down packed. Now, all we had to do was wait for nighttime to arrive. Just then, I received a text from my mom to come home for lunch. William and I quickly discussed a time, and I disappeared out his front door and ran for my house. As I was running home, I noticed Granny, Grunt, and Adam walking up his driveway. That was cutting it close. Meanwhile, at my house, to kill time, I got on my computer and surfed the net. Time was dragging by ever so slowly, so I decided to upload some more recent photos I had taken of William and posted them online. As I posted some of the photos, I thought about how mad William might get. Oh well, I thought to myself, he's a big boy and he'll get over it. Eventually, my mom called me for supper, and I quickly scarfed it down. By now, I could hardly wait for the big moment. As soon as it got dark, I was to head over to William's house so we could start the movie. The daylight began to fade, and I put on my shoes, said goodbye to my parents, and headed over to William's. Granny Grunt greeted me at the front door. I could tell by the look on her face that she wasn't too thrilled I was coming over that late. She hollered in her customary gruff voice for William to come to the door. Once he arrived, she looked the two of us up and down, grunted, and headed up the stairs to her bedroom where she would reside for the evening. Harry followed her upstairs and was gone too. Our plan was going perfectly. I walked into the family room, and there sitting on the middle of the couch was Adam. He was patiently waiting for the movie to start. He loved watching movies with us and always enjoyed sitting right between us. I think it made him feel safe. Poor little guy, I thought to myself. If he only knew what was about to happen. As I got the movie ready, William hustled into the kitchen and made some popcorn. Whenever it was movie night, there was always popcorn. He also wanted to make sure that his granny was staying upstairs, so he crept upstairs to make sure she was in her room. A few moments later, William emerged from the kitchen with a gigantic bowl of popcorn. As the movie began, the three of us sat on the couch next to one another and stuffed our faces with popcorn. William had chosen a classic movie based on one of my favorite cartoons. It was also a movie that wouldn't be too scary for Adam. Of course, that would all change later on. William and I were really getting into the movie and almost forgot about our plan. We finally ran out of popcorn and realized that we had to start things soon. The movie had about half an hour to go when William decided to start the recording. It was time for us to put on a show. William carefully reached over the side of the couch and started the sounds playing on his tablet. It was now hooked into the wireless system, and all we had to do was wait. As the movie continued, I could begin to hear the strange noises coming from the speakers in the basement. William and I secretly glanced at each other so Adam wouldn't notice and smirked. It didn't take long for Adam to notice the sounds as well. He began to look up and stared towards the basement door, then paused and went back to watching the movie. This continued on and off for the next few minutes, and then there was a loud crash. Adam was now inching closer and closer to my side and then slid right next to me. The look on his face said it all. This was my time to ask William if he heard any noises from the basement. William acknowledged that he too had heard something and paused the movie. Carefully, he crept towards the basement door. There was a loud thud. Then there was another loud noise. He slowly motioned me over to the door, and I snuck up behind him. By now, Adam had a very concerned look on his face. Slowly, William opened the basement door just a crack and peeked downstairs. It couldn't have been timed more perfectly, as the monster sound roared from the basement speakers. William turned and shouted at me to help, just like we had thought. Adam had followed us to the door. He was now positioned behind me, and he grabbed a hold of my leg, cutting off the circulation. William slammed the door shut and leaned his shoulder into it. I reached around him and pushed on the door as well. Pounding footsteps could be heard coming up the stairs. The two of us screamed and hollered as we tried to brace the door. During all the commotion of the two of us hooting and hollering, William had carefully slipped his foot a few centimeters from the base of the door. Suddenly, there was a huge thud against the door. William secretly kept his foot against the door as he pulled on the door handle with one hand. This gave the appearance of something or someone trying to get out of the basement. The door appeared to open ever so slowly as I pushed and William pulled. Adam screamed and continued to squeeze my leg even tighter. The monster was thumping on the door, with everything going on, everyone yelling, and the bear snake roaring in the basement. William took his free hand and grabbed the side of his face to make it appear as if it was coming from behind the door. At first, even I was convinced that something was coming out of the basement, and I pushed the door closed. Just as it slammed shut, the lights came on in the family room, and Granny Grunt was standing there staring at us. She began hollering, and the three of us spun around to see her standing there with green makeup and other stuff all over her face. She looked hideous. Actually, terrified for a moment, William and I screamed, opened the door, and ran down the stairs. We left poor little Adam standing there with his granny. We stayed in the basement for a few minutes, and then decided it was time to face Granny Grunt. She did not look very happy at all. I was immediately told to head straight home and not to come back until she was heading back up north. As for William, he had to sleep with his little brother Adam for 2 whole months after the incident. Adam had been experiencing very bad nightmares, and his parents and Granny felt it was an appropriate consequence for William's actions. Funny thing was, Adam turned out to be a chronic bedwetter. Go figure. The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.